And can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you for that warm introduction. And first, I just want to start off by saying, this conference is very special to me. I think this is my fourth or fifth year coming in, and I actually met the Sentry team here and a lot of my friends. So, firstly, just thank you for putting this on, and everyone here, thank you for taking the time. I know we have someone from India, someone from Ukraine. It's fantastic, kind of seeing the commitment and everyone coming in at from various time zones to learn more about Angular and Sentry. With that kind of being said, I'm just going to go right into it. As we've mentioned, go ahead and ask questions using the Q&A. We have folks moderating that, so I'm going to try my best to kind of get through anything that's there, as well as I've dedicated about 15 or 20 minutes at the end to answer any questions. By way of introduction, my name's Neil Manvar. You can think of me as a developer helping developers. I've been working as a solutions engineer for Sentry for the last few years, but let's get started. So for those of you that may or may not have heard about Sentry, what Sentry tells you is when your app is broken and when your app is slow, regardless of tech stack. Today we're here for Angular, so that's where we're going to concentrate. But just wanted to let you know what Sentry does is it lives inside of your application. Anytime that you have an error, exception, or a crash, it gathers any of that data, any of that context, and then shoots it up to our service, and then alerts developers letting you know your application is broken, giving you the details of who, what, when, where, and why, and then allowing you to figure out what the problem is and address it. So as I said, we're going to be concentrating on Angular, but just know that you can use Sentry regardless of stack. And this really fits in well because most Angular apps are communicating with the backend, right? So you might have an error that is surfaced on the front end, but as a result of your backend, Sentry is going to give you that complete picture. Recently, we've also released our performance monitoring features, which is answering why is my application slow in addition to broken? Or, hey, this error might be resulting in this slowdown, and this is how it affects the overall user experience or customer experience. And I'm going to be delving into this for Angular as well, because we do have this offering available there. So if you're not using Sentry, what likely happens is you may or may not know about any errors that are pushed out to your production by folks using your Angular app. And then it gets escalated. You might hear about it through Twitter, through customer support, or a friend telling you it's broken. But at the end, you don't have the details, and you end up having to reproduce. And eventually you get to a log where you have a bunch of noise, a bunch of information, most of it's actually irrelevant, and then you hit the error or try to reproduce it and end up with a minified stack trace, and then debug, set breakpoints, and then figure out what's wrong. Hours, days pass by, and it's very, very strenuous. This is happening for every error and such. So what we're trying to do is streamline that. Developers write code, we commit code, we deploy code. We should know about our errors as soon as one or two customers hit them, and then get all the details and be able to fix it. So without Sentry, you don't always know about your errors. You don't always know about the quality of your apps as they go into your various environments. And with Sentry, you're going to be given all of this information. So here's the error. Here's how many times it happened. Here's the distribution, the aggregation. Here's the stack trace on this line of code for every frame. And we don't just stop there. We'll even show you the commit that caused it. So how are we going to do this in Angular? Let's do it. Let's get set up. So I believe the link was sent out earlier. If not, it is right here. So just go ahead and fork this repo. This is github.com ng-manvar ng-conf 2020 Sentry workshop. So I'm going to give folks just a quick moment to do that. In parallel, I have the Sentry.io sign up here. I'm going to go ahead and just register here. And folks should also do that. And this is all outlined here. So starting right at the beginning, prereqs were just to have nvm node and git installed. And then we're going to go ahead and fork and clone this. And then npm install, npm run deploy. And then following that, we're going to go ahead and get set up. So here I have my application up. Let's go ahead and run some of those steps. So npm install. And I already ran npm use earlier. So there we go. And then we will go ahead and deploy this as well and show you what we're dealing with. Alrighty, looks like we're still npm installing. That's fine. There we go. That looks good. npm run deploy, which will pull up our application. And in parallel, like I mentioned, I'm just going to go ahead and sign up here. There we go. So we're going to be presented into our organization here. And in here we see to follow the onboarding steps. But let's go ahead and finish this before we move on to the second step here. So here we go. It's still building. And what we're going to have here is just a sample Angular app with a page full of errors so that we can go ahead, click, and simulate errors and have events shot up to Sentry after we're done integrating. But before we do that, I'm just going to go ahead and show what we're dealing with, and then step by step, we'll introduce the Sentry Sdk in, as outlined here. We'll go ahead and then achieve other parts of the workflow as well. It's generating the bundle. So, and then we're going to go ahead and pull this up in the browser and go from there. Meanwhile, in Sentry, we've also been presented the steps right here for onboarding. I'm going to go ahead and just select Angular, and I'll revisit that in just a moment. But here we go. This is done. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. So here I have my application. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the developer console. And I don't have Sentry integrated yet. So here, let's say I'm having errors in production. This is happening in the browser. I may or may not know about this. And then you can see here is the stack trace, which is obfuscated. A lot of different problems here. And I want to know about this in a better way. So let's go ahead and set up Sentry. So here I'm going to go ahead and select Angular. Let's go ahead and create that project. And now we're going to be given the steps to install the Sentry SDK. So we're going to go through this step by step and integrate this into our application. So left-hand side, we have our onboarding instructions. Right-hand side, we have our code base right here. And just to recap where we are in terms of the flow, we've done all of this here. We've created our Sentry account, and we're following the onboarding steps and instrumenting the code as specified. And once we do that, we'll once again run our build and then check out what's going on and trigger these errors. So here, let's go once again here and here. First thing it says, npm install. So let's just go directly in here. I'm just going to go clear npm install. The package is right here. So we have the Angular Sentry SDK, followed by the tracing SDK. And this is what is going to enable our performance metrics, which I'll go into in just a moment at the end of the session. So here we go. We're npm installed, and we can see that now some items have been added in over here, specifically right here. And let's go into app module TS next and go ahead and instrument as specified here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this block of code starting from import Sentry into the end of Sentry init here and go ahead and paste right here. And I want to go ahead and move to this line right here, import app module, as this is unnecessary due to the architecture of my app right now. So just to summarize, what I've done is I'm importing the Sentry Angular package, importing the integration, initializing the Sentry SDK, with the DSN that was provided to me. So I created a project as part of this onboarding flow. Also, for those folks that are already using Sentry, you can head over to projects on your left-hand side and just create new project, and it'll present you into a similar onboarding flow as well. If you're new, you'll go through this journey that I'm taking you through right now, but more or less we're going to achieve the same end result. So here we've instrumented the Sentry SDK. The DSN is the unique key, and we want associated with the projects, and we want errors sent up to sentry.io, and here is the project ID. In addition to that, and we're talking about the performance piece, we're instrumenting the tracing integration so that we can get these transactions up to Sentry and understand what's slow and drill down from there. And for now, we want 100% of these sent up. Lastly, we're going to set up the error handler and the tracer. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy the providers here. Go into here, and let's just showcase what we've done here. So there's a Sentry error handler. And basically, when there's an error, it'll be shot up to Sentry. We also have an optional dialog that we've chosen to show here just to let the user know an error has happened and to provide any additional detail. This is once again optional, but for now, it provides a good confirmation that, hey, something is wrong with the application, and we can take action from there. And a provider for the trace service. Here we have the app initializer, which depends on the trace service. And that's all we have to do here. So here, next, I am going to go and revisit the instructions. npm run deploy. And then let's shoot out some errors. And you can see we're already waiting for the verification event. So right now it's red and waiting. Let's go ahead and deploy and shoot that up. And we should see a change there. And let's go and evaluate the data here and see what the end result is. So just to recap, what we've done is we've installed the Sentry SDK right here, Sentry Angular Sentry Tracing, and then instrumented our code, specifically in app module TS, such that we're instantiating the Sentry SDK to attach to the global, and then we are creating an error handler that attaches to Angular's error handler to shoot up any of that data to Sentry upon error exception. And then additional providers for any of the tracing capabilities, which will be covered in a moment. And then once you do that, I'm going to kind of jump in a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and shoot up these errors. What's going to happen is we've solved problem one. We're going to be notified of these errors, and we're going to have all of the data regarding the error, and it's not going to be stuck inside of the browser, and we're going to have that context. But specifically what we're not going to see, and this is what was also resembled in the browser log, is the stack trace is going to be minified. It's going to be obfuscated. So source maps are how we're going to fix that. We're going to upload those to Sentry so that Sentry can de-obfuscate these stack traces. And we'll actually use the cleaned up stack trace, which is also actionable to the developer and means something to the developer, to also detect similar errors and group them together. So let's go ahead and revisit our build here. I have my application deployed right here. So let's go, bam. I'm going to go pull up the developer console as well and trigger all of these errors. So here you saw that dialog come up. You can see something is going wrong. All of these errors have happened. And if we go ahead and look at the network tab, we can see that it has been sent out to Sentry. And in the payload are the details of the error. So let's go ahead and take a look here. And we can see that the event was received. Yay. So let's go ahead, take me to my event. And if you're already using Sentry and following that new project flow I mentioned earlier, go ahead and just, it says, take me to my issue stream. So here now, we can see the error that was sent to Sentry. It's going to go ahead and give you a walkthrough. I'm going to go ahead and give you a custom walkthrough, but go ahead and step through that if you find that useful. Here we can see the error type, error message, how many times it happened, how many users it impacted. If there were more, we would see the aggregate data right here. We can see a breakdown to understand if it's happening in all the various browsers or operating systems or user agents, etc. on any URL. So the point being is any tag introduced into our system will produce a heat map and a breakdown as such that helps us understand the impact of the error and where it's coming from. We see that there's some things wrong. This is actually because of the source mapping, which I'll get into in just a moment, but we can iterate through all of these events, see exactly what was going on. And here's the stack trace. And as I mentioned, this is obfuscated. So this isn't very useful. Line number 1, column 84,000 main.js. So we'll get to fixing that in a bit. But we can also see the steps leading up to the action. It looks like I clicked on this element. I loaded up the page before that, which resulted in this action. In this exception, and then any other details will also be surfaced. So this is just the out-of-the-box integration, and you can attach any custom information as you want. But let's go ahead and take this a step further, get this cleaned up, and get a actionable stack trace. So just to summarize, we've solved problem 1, where we've been notified of the error, and we can have email alerts and Slack alerts for this and such configured, which I'll get into in a moment. But we don't have that clean stack trace, and which helps us understand exactly where it was happening in the code. So let's go ahead and solve that. So going back to here, what we're going to do now is just let Sentry know which version of our application errors are coming from, and then we're going to go ahead and upload source maps using the Sentry Cli plugin. So we're going to install this as a dev dependency. I've already set up the Angular project to generate source maps, but in your Angular JSON, you can specify source map true. And what's going to happen is in dist, you see over here, we have not only the minified.js, but next to that, here we have the js.maps, which are the source maps that I'm talking about. Next, we're going to go ahead and just configure our build process so that it's sending it up. We'll have to set up some stuff in Sentry in regards to obtaining an auth token so we can upload those artifacts. And that is the adventure we're about to embark on. So let's go ahead and get started. So once again, left-hand side, the README, right-hand side, the code. So if we go to app module tx once again, I'm going to go right here and just specify the release right here. Next, let's go ahead and install Sentry CLI so we can get those source maps up. I'm going to go ahead to Angular JSON and just show the source map configuration right over here. And then lastly, as this is all building, if we go to the makefile, I already have this pre-built here where I'm basically calling the commands here to upload the source maps, which is Sentry CLI, releases, upload source maps. We want that being done right here. So lastly, I'm just going to comment this one out or delete it and then recomment in this one here. And we're going to go ahead and replace all of the credentials here and the auth token as well. So let's go ahead and start first on the auth token, and then we'll go ahead and revisit this. So if I go into Sentry once again here and go into organization settings, and here, if I go into developer settings, you're going to see internal integration. So let's go ahead and create a new internal integration. We'll call this ng-conf live Sentry CLI. And what we need to do here is give access accordingly. So we're going to be creating a release object within Sentry and uploading artifacts to that. So let's go ahead, give this an admin privilege here. And then later, we're going to actually shoot up commits into Sentry so that we can understand which commit introduced the error. So let's go ahead and give that read and write. That's all we need to do here. Let's go ahead, save this. We're going to be given an auth token right over here. So let's go back into our terminal and export that as an environment variable. And there's other ways of setting this, but I've chosen to just do this as an environment variable here. So here this is set, and just to recap where we are with the instructions right over here. So we created that internal integration. I mentioned how to get there. Organization settings, which is from here, bam, developer settings, and then new internal integration, and then go ahead and fill out the permissions as necessary. and set that as an environment variable. And next, we're going to go ahead and set up the Sentry org project. So the org name, you can go ahead and access from right here, but that's basically what you specified earlier, or go to organization settings. You'll also see it here. I'm just going to step back. So let's go ahead and fill that out. And the project, which we were looking at earlier, and by default, it is the same name here. So Manvar org, bam. And that's all we have to do here. And what's happening here is that we're, once again, uploading the source maps. And I've just replaced the build process here to create that release and upload source maps to it. And you can see the path is dist. I specified the credentials, the auth token, specified the project and the org, and the path. So let's go ahead and upload this here. So if I go ahead, let's just make sure, yep, we're done. So let's go ahead and run npm run deploy. And as part of my build process, I'm setting the environment.release. So that's actually, I did that behind the scenes. So that's why I was able to just go ahead and do that. And after this is done, we're going to go ahead and trigger those new errors and see if they have the right stack trace. So let's actually just go here and let's actually just start with a clean slate so we don't get disturbed here. So we're almost done building, and then we'll pull it over. Any questions coming in, Schaefer? I think it's just a good moment while this is all building. But here we go. We can actually just see those source maps uploaded. So we can see, bam, here they are, shot up to Sentry. And we can actually verify that by going to our project settings. And this is also outlined in the README. And if we go to source maps here, we can see that here's an archive, which is the release version that I specified. And here are all the source maps associated with that piece right there. So let's go and see if the deployment is done, which it is. Go ahead, pull that up right here. And now let's go ahead and shoot up some more events into Sentry. Here, just gonna step back into issues. And now I can see these coming in. And if I go and take a look at these, what we see now is a cleaned up stack trace. The source app components.typescript, line 37, column 18. It happened right here in the code base. We can see all the frames as necessary, go in, drill down, and get all the details. And now any errors come in will also be grouped properly as well. So if I once again refresh and trigger all of these again, you'll see all of those come in accordingly and in a moment and being grouped. So let's take a look at a few others. So here you can see a URI error. You see the relevant stack trace. Here is a syntax error and so forth. All right, so this is great. Now we have actionable information. We have the who, what, when, where, and why, all the error information, possibly everything we would want in terms of an error happen to help us understand the impact and then address. But what would be even cooler? One is if we would be alerted about this, which we'll get into in a moment. And number two, if we could figure out which commit caused this exact error. So we're going to address this, but as I've talked about before, I want to also know, why is my application slow in addition to broken, or if it's not broken? So this is why we've also introduced our performance feature set. So I'm just going to go ahead, quickly drill down into one transaction, and then revisit the rest of the error monitoring workflow, which is the alerting and the commits. So you can see from here, I just jumped into performance, and I can see a transaction came in, and we can drill down on any of this data, and we see the performance related metrics. and I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the relevant transaction, and I see exactly what happened in the browser. So the page was loaded. Here are all of the browser's actions that happened, all the assets or resources that were brought in, and the timings associated with it, all the different breakdowns. And if I was using Sentry on the backend, I could also trace into that as well. But now what I'm going to be able to do is understand slowness. Is it my Angular app? Is it my Grammarly extension? Is it XYZ? What was the user doing? And is there an error associated with this? So I'm going to do probably more information on this later because this is a whole different problem that we're solving. But let's go ahead and concentrate on errors. But just wanted to let you know that with this integration, you're going to get not just why is my application broken, but why is it slow as well out of the box. You can see we've implemented that right here. So going back into here, let's go to the README and just once again level set. So we've set up the Sentry SDK and installed it. We've uploaded the source maps and verified we're all good there. I gave you just a quick little sneak peek of Sentry performance. And let's go ahead and configure those integrations so that we're alerted on the fly. And like I said, it would be great to understand which commit was causing all of this. So let's go ahead to our issues page here. There we go. You can see all the aggregation coming through. And let's go ahead and set up Slack. So what we're going to do is go to organization settings, subscription, and activate our trial so that we're able to add our Slack integration. So if we go into here and then go into organization settings and go into subscription. And by the way, if you find yourself lost with the Sentry, it's just like kind of VS Code or Sublime. If you press Command-Shift-P and then just go ahead and type in whatever you want, press enter, you'll be taken right here. So if we go to BAM, subscription, activate your trial. Let's go ahead and do that. Next, let's go to integrations here. And then let's go to Slack. And let's go ahead and add a workspace here. So I'm just going to go ahead and take you through. There we go. So we're set up with Slack. Next, what we're going to do is head over to project settings and then configure this as an alert rule. Or we could go ahead, just go to alerts right here, go to alert rules, create alert rule. Let's go ahead, select an issue alert. And what we're going to do is if this is seen more than X amount of times, so we could do 1, 2, 3, or whatever. I just want to have this trigger, so I'm going to go ahead and set that. And then we could set basically read up any event attributes or set any type of rule as we want. And then if you want to set a rule on the overall volume or any subset of events based on any query, you can do metric alert. I'll cover that in a different subject as well. But here, let's go ahead, perform this action, send a Slack notification. I want to send this to my Angular channel. So it's Sentry demos-Angular, Sentry-demos-Angular. And I could also surface any other information I needed. We'll have this trigger at this frequency. Oh, forgot to give it a name. Here we go. Created. And let's go ahead and test this out. So we can head over to localhost 5000. Here we go. And what we should be receiving is an alert on Slack. And that's exactly what happened here. So it's coming in today. We can see all of these coming in. We can resolve, ignore, or assign if we know what's going on just from a glance. Otherwise, click in, dive in, and go from there. Oh, I was in the wrong windows. So here we go, which links us right to the issue as well. I was in an incognito. Bam. So there we go. Slack alerts. You can configure email alerts, pager duty, etc. We have a wide variety of these. So if you're curious in terms of what's out there and what's available, you can go ahead and look at our integrations right here. The next one I want to cover is source code management. This one is my favorite one because we will show you which commit caused this error in addition to who wrote that code, because that's probably the best person that can address this issue and roll forward in the shortest amount of time, rather than someone new who's trying to reproduce it, understand it, get context, and doesn't know the code base. So this is probably something that you're already doing, right? An error happens, you then look through, what builds went out, and then get blame and go from there. This is all streamlined with Sentry. So let's go ahead and configure this. I'm going to go ahead and visit the instructions here. So we're going to add the GitHub integration. So once again, go to organization settings, integrations, GitHub, and then make a quick little change to the make file to allow for that. So let's get right into it. So here is my organization settings. Let's go to integrations here. We can then go to GitHub. And let's go ahead and add an installation. Oop. Let me just enter this in real quick. There we go. Go ahead, configure that. And I am going to configure this. Oh, I believe I selected the wrong one here. I want to select here. And I'm going to do all repositories, but you can go ahead and do select ones as well. And so here we go, we're set up here. And then now all we have to do is just enable this in the make file. So here it is. Take this associate commits, add it to right here. And let's go ahead and run npm run deploy once again to rerun the build. So just to kind of recap. Oh, I actually forgot one. Oh, no, that's fine. So let's go ahead and rerun that and run the build, and we should have commits associated as well. So just to recap where we are here, we added the GitHub integration, and we changed our build process to reflect that, and we're running the build, and we're going to go ahead and associate those commits and see if we can see the commit data. So let's go ahead and revisit the build. Here it is. So here it's uploading the source maps, and what we see momentarily is it was able to set all the commits for this release. So let's go ahead to Sentry. Here it is. And if we go to releases, we can go ahead and see that release. And we see all of these commits and files change. And here we go. And now, if I go ahead and pull up an issue, what I should see is the commit that caused this. And here I can directly assign to the individual who caused this. And now I've streamlined the whole process from being in the know of my errors, getting all the context, the who, what, when, where, and why, the stack trace, the breadcrumbs, the breakdowns, and then being able to act on this, finding the commit that caused it, and thus being able to find someone who is best equipped to fight this error and address this and go from there. So that's what Sentry does in a nutshell. For your Angular setup, we're going to let you know that you're having errors. We're going to let you know it's broken. We're going to let you know where it's slow. So just to recap here, we were alerted on Slack, and we were able to figure out which GitHub commit caused this, but we have a variety of integrations. And what we did is we integrated the SDK, configured alerts, got alerted or notified, got into Sentry where we were able to see the context, the real meat of it, get to the commit that caused this, and roll forward and get back to playing racquetball or whatever it was that we're doing. I mainly focus on error monitoring for Angular and gave you a sneak peek of performance. We also have release health, which is the sessions in terms of how's your release doing out there, crash-free sessions and such, which we'll also be introducing into JavaScript and Angular soon. Discovers our analytics engine, so you can query any of the data, create dashboards, and ecosystem is the integrations that I was covering earlier. And how this all works, like we demoed, is SDK shooting up the errors and transactions into Sentry. We aggregate them, we deobfuscate them, and then we alert you, find the commit that caused it, and present you an interface for you to understand the who, what, when, where, and why. So I've repeated this a few different times, but just want to conclude here. Sentry is what's going to tell you that your application is broken, whether it's a front-end Angular app or a back-end, or it could be an embedded C++. As long as the internet access and the error can get into Sentry, we have an SDK for it, we can tell you that it's broken. And then for Angular, we also just released our performance monitoring to help you understand that this is slow, and this is also slow because it's related to this error, and giving you the complete picture, not just is my application broken because of exceptions and crashes, but also where is it slow and what's the user experience like. And go ahead and you can check out our documentation for more information and our site. And I'm going to go ahead and now answer any questions because I want to leave adequate time for that.
Excellent. Okay, that was amazing. Thank you for that so far. I do want to just say, before we answer any questions, we've got a couple of them. But I do want to let everybody know that Sentry is being really generous, and they're giving a $90 credit for new accounts. So you'll get a 3-month base team plan, and all you have to do is put in the code Angular. So that's pretty awesome. Like I said, that's a 3-month $90 credit. So just use that Angular code. And then, yeah, we've got a couple questions here. So the first one for you, and we just had a third one pop in too. But the first one is, how does error grouping work in context of continuous deployment, like where the source lines get ever so slightly changed?
Yeah, good question. I'm actually just going to present my screen again and show you rather than abstractly explain it. So here, let me know when y'all can see my screen. It should be the presentation.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool. So here, now we see an error that's coming from Angular. So I mentioned that grouping is based on the stack trace. We do a little bit, we do it a little bit more intelligently than that. We don't just read in every attribute. So if we go into the bottom here, you can actually see what we took into account when grouping. So here it was a module name, the context line, so which kind of refers to this, as well as this line, and not the line numbers and such. So in a continuous in an environment where your app is continuously changing and line numbers are shifting, the grouping should still be accurately enough to aggregate similar errors. And in the case that they're not, we also have features to help you with this. So here, for example, if I wanted to merge these because I thought they were the same thing, I could go ahead and do that. In this case, there's not. We also have a feature. This one I don't have the right data set for, but it's called similar. Oh, cool. Similar issues. And I can go ahead and see exactly what the diff was here and go from there. We deleted it here, but what this looks like, here, I have a GIF of it, which is pretty handy. What that looks like is something like this. So if we go similar issues, we can see exactly what the differing attributes of the stack trace were and potentially why it wasn't grouped together and take action on it. So more or less, it's a kind of intelligent grouping based on frameworks and based on what we have in the stack trace, kind of optimized for each of the framework and vertical. And we also have a workflow to help you associate similar errors as well and detect.
Awesome. Okay, then the next one is, can we install Sentry locally, or it runs only via sentry.io?
Yeah, good question. So if we go over to here, You can, so what we were toying around with today, right, was Sentry.io, which is the SaaS, which has the latest and greatest, and you can go ahead and get started with a free trial and even send up a bunch of events for free. And then we have Sentry is a open source technology. So Sentry.io is actually the open source technology with the shim and all the, like I mentioned, all of those features and high availability and all the security and enterprise related features around that. And you can go ahead and pull down Sentry and self-host it. It will be a challenge once you kind of push production traffic to it, but you can get up and running. Just go ahead, pull it down. It's just a few different Docker containers you can see right here. And here are the instructions, but bam.
Awesome. Okay, then next one, let me go back to it. How can I sort by affected users on issues? Like i.e. issues affecting most number of users.
Yeah. So here we could just easily go bam, sort by users. And this will query the issue data set here and go from there. As well as we could even do user and then do account query as well. We also have Discover, which does all of our analytics. So for example, if I wanted to do something pretty easy, I could do, show me all of my errors. We'll just get them by title. And I want how many unique users are affected by it. Bam. And by the way, I don't have the best data set here, but it would look something like this. And you could just categorize there and then view that data. So everything in Sentry is actually getting put into a global events table, and Discover is the way that we can query this and get back any of the data, not just from the issue perspective, and aggregate and kind of pivot on this as we need.